Recently, Starbucks has asked their landlords to cut their rent significantly. Will this mean that Starbucks will get evicted, or is this the new normal? You're not going to want to miss this, so grab your frappuccinos and let's get started. In early May, Starbucks sent out a letter to landlords who own 9,000 of their locations across the country, and in that letter they're asking for rent forgiveness, concessions, and basically to restructure the whole lease altogether. Now, landlords are not happy about this, but Starbucks is claiming that their income is drastically falling. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this, but we're going to get into that in just a second. Starbucks also requested that the changes start effective as of June 1st of this year and expand for the next 12 months. Now, their COO, Roz Brewer, if that's how you say it, Brewer. Yes, that is her real last name, Brewer. I guess when you hire your COO, you want the last name to fit the company's core business, I would say. Roz Brewer stated that Starbucks has dramatically lost income and they're facing the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. And she's stating that this is even worse than the Great Recession or the global financial crisis that we had in 2008, and that landlords have to kind of adapt to this new norm. Now, Starbucks hasn't commented as to whether their negotiations have gone through or any update whatsoever, but we have learned that landlords all the way from southern Florida and all the way to the opposite end of the country in Washington have been receiving these letters, and they are not too happy about this. Well, according to Leon Brooks, who is a landlord of one of these locations, he stated that he is highly disappointed, disgusted, and angry, and rightfully so. He also stated that we have a contract and we plan to enforce it, and if they want to go into default, we will remedy this in court. Another landlord by the name of George Bean, yes, Bean, I can't make this up, this is their real last names, George Bean, for a publicly traded company with $90 billion in market cap to ask us for help, he said he's frankly astonished. So what is the true health of Starbucks? What kind of a financial condition are they in? Are they just making this up to take advantage of the situation, or are they really in trouble? Well, let's look at some of the data. So Starbucks has approximately 85% of their locations open right now. You can go there and grab a cup of coffee. You may not be able to go inside, but you can definitely go to the drive-thru. And by the end of May, they're approximating that 90% of their chains will be open up. So the other way they're trying to stave off expenses is by taking it out of payroll. These are some of the options that they've given their employees. Number one would be to take a leave of absence for 120 days, but within those 120 days, the employee would still be able to have benefits such as health insurance, which is good. And then they can still collect their unemployment from the PUA and from the state's unemployment, which is not a bad option. I'm sure a lot of them have exercised that. They can continue to work, understanding that the hours may be cut, or they can just quit their jobs completely. These are some of the options they've laid out. Now, one of the things that Starbucks was commended for was that they were continuing to pay their employees even though they were not working. Well, that has gone away. What they've done now is they've actually increased the hourly pay by $3 to any employee who actually is still working. That's not bad. That's actually really good because it's rewarding a lot of people to stay in their jobs and not go home and just collect the PUA. But the company is anything but cash strapped. Recently, Starbucks issued $3 billion of debt on May 7th. They also held $2.7 billion in cash reserves at the end of March. According to Securities and Exchange, that is. You know, they can't really be trusted all that much. The filings indicate that Starbucks is expected to pay $1.25 billion in rent over the next 12 months as its retail locations, roasteries, and warehouse and offices. So if they wanted to, they can literally pay all of the rent for the year coming up right now. They have enough cash on hand to do that at this very moment. Let's go on and see what else they say. So Starbucks reported $6 billion in revenue during the second quarter. That's down 5% from the previous year at the same time. But they're actually painting a very different picture. And these are numbers that we're not making up. These are numbers that they have to put out because they're publicly traded. So in late May, Starbucks said that comparable sales at reopened stores were down 35 to 40%. I don't know. Compared to the prior year, that is. But some employees at stores with modified hours and operations are actually saying something totally different. This is what employees are saying. A Starbucks manager said that he and his coworkers are tired, worn down, mentally and physically exhausted after working through this pandemic. Seems to me like they're doing more for less, or there's less people doing the same amount of work that they were doing before. A second worker said the Starbucks location is doing a booming drive-through business and called the decision to cut hours ridiculous. Now, this is coming from people on the ground, people who are actually working inside of Starbucks. This is coming from them. Now, Starbucks is not alone in feeling the pain. There's a lot of other restaurateurs and retailers out there that are feeling this pinch. These are just some additional restaurants that are also looking for rental assistance. Chipotle, and believe it or not, Chipotle is actually in a good position to weather this. They have an app, they have various locations that are easy to get to, they have a line of people waiting outside for food. We also have Shake Shack, which you know, Shake Shack has been in the news a lot lately. We have Dunkin' Donuts, Applebee's, Roof's Hospitality Group, that's Roof Chris Steakhouse, and we have Jack in the Box. So a lot of these well-known brands that have been around for a long time are all in the same boat. This is a very scary thing. You would think that these types of restaurants are economy proof, crash proof, but not so, not during this current pandemic that we're all in. This is very scary. So what are some restaurant owners actually saying about these rent negotiations? Well, they're saying that a lot of their requests have been met with default threats. Well, this was the case for a gentleman by the name of Steven Stolberg, who owns a 56-seat restaurant in Plantation, Florida. So this is what he is stating. He does not expect to have zero rent, he said, but he added that he was disappointed his request of a 50% rent reduction in line with his falling revenues was denied. You got to understand, this landlord either is going to have this person as a tenant, or they're going to leave and file bankruptcy, which means they do not have to pay you that rent any further. And what they're going to have at that point is an empty location for God knows how long. I think landlords need to start looking at options or workout options with their tenants. Next, we have Tillman Fertitta, who you guys all know. I've done videos on this gentleman before. He's a billionaire restaurateur. So what he is stating is that...
Yeah, definitely. And all leases have some clauses in them that things you never thought would happen, but everybody has to be reasonable with everybody. And I want to be a reasonable tenant, and I expect the landlord to be reasonable with me. But don't expect me to pay you 100% rent when I've been closed by the county, the city, the state, the government, and you, because your mall's not open or your facility's not open, you have no business, your hotel's closed. And I think this is a time that we all have to work together. Everybody needs to be reasonable, and once again, everybody needs to feel some pain.
But on the other hand, landlords are worried that if they reduce their rental income, it'll also devalue their properties, because this is the way that commercial real estate works. When you have a commercial property, the more rent you get in, the more valuable your property would be. So if a landlord is thinking about selling that property in the near future and they give you a rental help or whatever they may call it, then that means that the property went down significantly in value. And if that location is only housing your business and it goes down by 50%, that means that the value of your property also goes down 50%. A lot of people are not thinking about that, but it also is affecting landlords in that capacity as well. So my suggestion to you is don't sell your property anytime soon. Not that anyone will buy it anyway. All right, I also want to talk to you about this. According to some research that was done by CMBS, CMBS stands for Commercial Mortgage-Backed Securities. This is the information that they were able to pull up, and this is going to be pretty scary, so I'm warning you, don't drop your coffee. The percentage of commercial mortgage-backed securities that were over 30 days late actually rose by more than 300%, from 2.2% of mortgages being delinquent all the way to 7.15% of mortgages being delinquent in the month of April. And this has been the largest increase in delinquencies since TREP has actually started taking records all the way back to 2009. Now, leading the pack are hotels, which are 19.3% delinquent. Multifamily, you would think would have a high delinquency rate, but actually multifamily is only at 3.25%. And earlier this year, they were at 1.79% of mortgages being delinquent. That's not too bad. Then we have office space, which is something that I would think would be astronomically high, is only at 2.4%, which is strange. And they were as low as 1.72% of mortgages being delinquent earlier this year. In retail, this is another one that's going to be really hurting us. This is where Starbucks, this is where Chipotle, Applebee's fall in. Retail is up 10.14%. And it was as low as 3.62% earlier this year. So I think we have a much bigger problem on our hands than where are you going to get your next pumpkin spice latte. Wow, that was fun to say. The bigger problem that we have right now is that mortgage bankers and banks, they make loans on commercial properties based on the likelihood of your retail tenants to be able to pay their rent. And if you have companies like Starbucks, you have companies like Chipotle who can't make their rent payments, it's going to be very difficult to unfreeze that credit market for commercial banks. Imagine if you wanted to buy a property and it has 3 stores and 10 apartments on top. No bank is going to want to finance that, because if a retailer like Chipotle or a restaurant like Applebee's can't make their rent payments, what makes you think that your smaller retailers, your mom and pops, are going to be able to pay their rent? This is going to be a very bad thing for the economy, and it's going to be a very bad thing for banking. The business model in America is actually one of the greatest ones in the entire world. They believe in capitalism, and one of the things within capitalism is called free markets. So let me explain to you what a free market actually is. It is a market in which where voluntary exchange and the laws of supply and demand provide the sole basis for economic systems without government intervention. But the problem is that right now we are not allowing a free market to actually take place. If we did have a free market, we'd have companies that were healthy, stay in business and do better, and companies that were mismanaged or companies that had no business or no more relevancy to the public would actually go out of business. But what we're seeing right now is companies that are actually positioned to grow and actually thrive that are not, because of government intervention. And I know the government's trying to keep us healthy. And if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear about it. Put it down below in the comments and tell me I'm wrong. But if you think I'm right, also let me know. I think the government did a great job of curbing whatever issues we had before. But now it's time to let these businesses go back to business. Let them do what they do best. Let them handle the unemployment rate, and don't leave everything up to government babysitting. We don't need to be monitored by the government. Businesses will figure their stuff out. If they keep getting government interference, we will never return to a free market. We will never have capitalism the way we know it, and this is a very dangerous thing. So what is your opinion? Do you think that Starbucks and other retailers will actually get a break on their rent, or you think they're going to be evicted and kicked out? Do you think there's a judge out there who will rule in the favor of these landlords, or do you think there's going to be some sympathy because of the pandemic that we're all facing? Leave it down below in the comments and let us know how you feel about this topic. So as you know, we're growing our real estate team into all 50 states. So if you're in sales or you want to get into sales, right now would be that perfect time. I'll leave a link to that down below in the description section. Also, if you want help with your business and you want to set up a strategy call, you can also find information on that on the same link. And lastly, if you just want to find out what books I've read to inspire me to get into business, or the best books for entrepreneurs, period, I'll also be leaving a link to that. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you making it all the way to the end. And if you wouldn't mind, hit that notification bell right after you subscribe to the channel and share this with a friend. Thank you guys, and we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. What do you call a sad cup of coffee? A depresso. Okay, enough coffee jokes. You get the point. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.